Love boat. Soon they'll be making another run. Can y'all hear me now? Okay. All right. I see the green. I see the green. So, going back to what we were talking about, I'm so flustered. I'm so flustered. We were talking about um, we were talking about how spiritual journeys affect you. We were talking about how when you first go through that like major ascension cycle, um, you'll experience a sense of solitude that kind of just makes you wonder who you are as a person. Um, you guys, how does my audio sound? Is it clear? Clear? I'm sorry, Jason. You're not an actual sorcerer. So, what we were talking about, it's so easy for us to really dismiss who we are, what we experience, all of these things because it's so uncomfortable for people, for society to accept us as the powerful beings that we are. And it's time for all of that to end. It really is. I was asked a question earlier in the other live. um is pain absolutely necessary? Is that a necessary part of our growth? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the audio cut off at a very particular point. um and I think it cut off for a reason. Okay, I think it cut off for a reason. I think it was cut off because you guys aren't supposed to know this. Pain is necessary. I was saying in the previous live, why do you think that we are programmed from childhood to be afraid of pain, afraid of feeling things, afraid of learning and growing and all of that? You look at mothers going through labor. And please, before anyone gets any idea of saying that I'm shaming mothers, I'm telling you right now, you're full of shit. I'm not shaming anyone, I'm speaking truth. You are programmed, especially as a first time mother, to be afraid of the pain of birth. Why is that? Because when you experience birth all natural, and yes, there will be exceptions, very few medically necessary exceptions. Let's get very real here, okay? Very few medically necessary exceptions to this rule. You experience that pain, you realize how powerful you actually are. After having given birth to so many children, my first child, um, my first child, I was very afraid. I was very afraid. I was trying to do it completely unmedicated. And at the very last minute, because the staff did not pay attention to the way I was presenting, they were not able to assist me in correcting the direction of my baby. His head was down, but he was not facing the right way. And if the head is not facing, their face is not looking at the floor when they come out, their head does not fit through the birth canal properly. So they get stuck, they get wedged. That's called a sunny side birth. Very, very, very painful. And so for the last, I want to say 15 minutes before I actively began pushing, I did not have the support that I needed. And so I opted for an epidural. Can you guys hear me? Now my Wi-Fi is really they don't want y'all to know this stuff. My Wi-Fi is unstable. Can you guys, there you go. Can you guys hear me now? I think you guys can hear me now. So what ended up happening, I got that epidural about 15 minutes before I started pushing. First off, they damaged my spinal cord. My back has never been the same since. That area where they punctured, that's my disc that constantly gets herniated. Okay. And secondly, every birth after that, they tried to convince me to have an epidural again. No, I don't need an epidural. They would wait until my husband leaves. Say he has to go get something from the car, say he needs to go to the cafeteria or do something, sign paperwork. They wait until he leaves because he's my protector. And they tell me he doesn't need to know. What do you mean he doesn't need to know? Everything I decide for myself in my body, he respects and he honors. Because that programming goes so deep. If I did not give birth, my first birth with an epidural, I would have no idea of any of this. It was only after they damaged my body so much from that first epidural and all the babies I had after that without an epidural. This is where I found my power. This is how I understood how powerful I actually am. And yes, there will be people who will need medication. There will be people who will choose medication. That's not for me to say that's right or wrong. It's for me to say that, what's up? Yes, this shitty ass Wi Fi is for me to say that I understand both ends of the spectrum. Because I've experienced both, I understand both. And I understand how very veiled the attempt to disempower a woman in the midst of her glory, giving birth to her child. That's what they do to us. Not just as women, they do this to you as a man. If you embrace your feminine side, oh my God, you're gay. What the fuck does that even mean? Is that derogatory? Is that meant to be derogatory? I hear people say that all the time. Oh my God, did you see him? He's so gay. Are you talking about his sexual preference? Why is that your business? Are you talking about feminine behavior? Because all of us have masculine and feminine within us. But the people who are able to embrace both of their aspects, for men, if you embrace any part of your femininity, your power in nurturing, oh my God, you're not a real man. What the fuck is a real man, anyways? I just saw someone posted on Facebook. It's a doctor that I actually really like. I don't know if I really like him anymore. I don't know. He posted something about real men get vasectomies. How about empowered men get vasectomies? Balanced, healthy men get vasectomies. Because this whole real man, if you are a real man, if you are a real woman, all of that is bullshit. All of that is bullshit. Who defines what's real? What characteristics do you have to exhibit to be considered a real man or a real woman? You have to play a gender role. That's what you have to do. Is that real power or are you just playing a role? So your spiritual journey is all about undoing that. It's all about releasing that and not participating in it, finding your truth, embracing your truth, and being who you are. What makes me so different from other people? Think on that really quick. What makes me so different? I mean, I look very feminine. I hear that often enough to understand. Yeah, I do look very feminine. I have long hair like a girl. I'm wearing pink. I have lipstick. My face has feminine features. I'm small in size. I'm so feminine. But when you interact with me, do you get feminine energy? I gotta laugh. You don't. Although I look very feminine, my energy is very masculine. That's what makes me powerful because I can tap into both equally. I have no shame of being more masculine in my behaviors while still looking very feminine in my appearance. A lot of people want you to play gender roles. And the whole point of your spiritual awakening, your blossoming, your rise in consciousness is for you to become aware of all your parts, for you to understand and embrace all of the parts of you that society says you should be ashamed of. If you look at history, from my culture alone, I'm from the Philippines. From my culture alone, the most powerful shaman were women. And the male who would become shaman oftentimes would cross dress. They would embody more feminine attributes. They oftentimes would be more categorically um What the fuck is the word? Transvestite. Hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. That's none of my business. 100% at 144. I mean, granted, I would not be okay with trying to have story time uh, with someone dressed in full drag, you know, speaking to children. That's your own personal lifestyle choice. Nothing wrong with it, but you don't really need to be including children in that. That's some adult stuff. Okay? Because I've seen quite a few. It's not helping anything. It's not helping anything if you're trying to be an edgy parent and trying to expose children to adult topics. It's not because they're cross dressing that it's inappropriate for children. It's because that's an adult lifestyle topic. Adult. Children, I mean, my kids know. I have a lot of friends who are trannies. They know that. My male friends who identify as female, I call them she. My children know that. Am I trying to normalize something? No. But they will see through my actions that I don't see any differences in people. And that's a part of your spiritual journey. Releasing that identity that society has told you you're supposed to have, releasing that programming of who you're supposed to be based on your color, your sexual gender, um, how much you make, what region you come from, what your occupation is, all of those. It's just like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. We all participate in that in one way, shape, or form. We all participate in that. And the moment you stop participating in that is the moment you finally realize what that actually is. Yeah, no, my perspective on children is very different than most people. I don't treat them like they're incompetent, half-formed humans. Oftentimes, that's what parents treat their children like. I'm like being completely serious. Oftentimes, parents believe it's okay to treat their children as though they have no idea, no clue, and no functional capabilities within their, within their brain. It's like, uh-uh, that's not how I treat my kids at all. Like you're fully aware there's certain topics that they're aware of, but they also know, you know what? As a parent, I feel like that's a little bit too much of an adult topic. Um, you don't need to worry about adult problems, adult struggles until you become an adult. At that point, if you still have questions, we'll definitely talk about it. This is the general gist of what this is, but we don't need to dive deeper into that. You can ask me about other things that you want to dive deeper into. It's not about withholding yourself or your knowledge or your experiences, not just with your children, but with people in your life. When you become more spiritually advanced, when you progress, I don't even like the word advanced because it gives a sense of like you're somehow better than other people. But when you progress, your understanding of things changes. And the truth of spiritual growth means that you're no longer competing. You're no longer comparing or competing with other people. You might have moments where you start that cycle, that old cycle, and then you realize and you're like, why am I doing this? I don't even need to do this. Because all of us experience similar lessons at the same time, but expressed in different ways. Just because we're experiencing the same lesson of boundaries, healthy boundaries, doesn't mean the details of our journey is going to be the same. It could be for me, I'm experiencing a lesson in healthy boundaries with complete strangers, while you're experiencing a lesson in healthy boundaries with your innermost circle, the person you're in a relationship with your children, with your siblings, with your parents, whatever it is, everyone's path is different. And so when you go through that spiritual awakening, that's a point where all the things that are not in alignment with your journey fall away. They just fall away. So at times, and this is the most common experience that people have come to me about. This is what I experienced myself. Um, Although I didn't have an actual awakening period, I've just kind of always been like this since I was a child. There was a period when I finally began to embrace that I'm different. I no longer was like killing myself to be like everyone else. So at that point, there was a group of people that I used to hang out with here and there. They would be like, "You're always at home," because I love being at home, and they would ask me to go out to bars and clubs with them, and I'd like begrudgingly go because you know, my husband would force me. He'd be like, "You never go out. You need to be like a regular person and go out. Go out with your friends. The kids will be fine." And there was no falling out with them. There was no argument. There was nothing. Just one day, um, people stopped calling me. I stopped being invited. I stopped being part of whatever stuff they were doing, posting online. And again, there was no problem. And it really made me feel like, oh my God, they finally see that I'm not like them. I'm not one of them. They think I'm probably weird. They're probably like uncomfortable around me. And these are all very normal, very natural conclusions that we tend to jump to when we experience this. Oftentimes it's not even that there's drama. Sometimes there is. Sometimes. If you're the kind of person that consistently reaches out, if you're always the one initiating contact, then most likely conflict through misunderstanding or whatever it is will be used to create separation. And I found that this typically happens because we need time alone. We need stillness. When you have all sorts of people in your water, stomping around in your water, swimming in your water will have movement. It will create ripples. It will create distortions in what you're able to see, how you see it. So when people are pulled away from you, it's not punishment, okay? It's not punishment. It's a correction. Your path is being corrected. The people who at some point will choose to grow just like you're growing in that moment, they'll find their way back to you. And if they choose not to accept their own growth, their own path, they probably won't find their way back to you. And you're going to have to be okay with that. You're going to have to be okay. It's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong. It's not necessarily that you're being punished. It's not necessarily that they don't like you anymore. Sometimes when the frequency is not aligned, it's not allowed. Okay. So after that period, and this period can last anywhere from a couple months to a couple years. It's really different for everyone. I think that because of where we're at right now as human beings, um, it's not going to be a couple years. The more common path will be a couple months, maybe up to a year. Just depends on how hard you fight your process. Oh, Dorothy, it is absolutely okay. It is absolutely okay. Everything that happens in your life is happening to help grow you, to help expand your consciousness and allow more space for higher levels of compassion, acceptance, and understanding. This is what I've seen over and over and over again. For me personally, for people that I assist, every time I go through an ascension cycle, um, my understanding deepens a little bit and my compassion rises. I just finished a cycle. I'm in the tail end of that cycle. And so I'm still very raw. I'm still very easily hurt. I'm still very easily offended. I'm still very easily, very quickly triggered. Why is that? Because I've shed a layer of a former existence. When you shed, because there's a term called shedding that people who are a little bit more aware in the spiritual community, they'll use that term. That's allowing yourself to shed the layers of pretense, layers of circumstance, layers of identities that are not your actual truth. And just like when you shed your skin, when you get a sunburn and the damaged skin, the skin that's no longer doing its job, it has to shed off, right? It has to be shed. And what happens? You tend to be a little bit more tender there, a little bit more raw. And that's exactly what's happening. And just because I'm more easily triggered, I'm more sensitive, I'm more easily angered, offended, whatever it doesn't make me less of a person. It makes me more. And I'll tell you why. People are so wrapped up in trying to accommodate the needs and the preferences of others. As you shed and you begin to allow yourself to exist authentically, quite possibly for the first time in your life, you begin to allow yourself to have real, organic, raw, and truthful experiences and reactions. You don't always have to have the proper response. I'm not here to master this life, I'm here to live it. Someone once said to me that if I were able to um, master my ability to have the proper response for every single time I have an interaction with someone else, then I'll have mastered my life. And immediately, I didn't even have to think about it. My immediate reaction, I don't want to master this life. I want to experience it. I'm not here to put on a show. You're not here to put on a show. You're not here to soothe other people's ruffled feathers. You're here to recognize you have grown your own. And these are the very feathers you need to take care of. If you get offended by someone, it's not their job to make sure you're okay. They've already served their purpose. They've offended you, they've triggered you. They were brought to you by your soul, intentionally gifted with the opportunity and the power to trigger you in this way. Whatever way it is, that's how they're meant to trigger you. And that's so you can observe, where is this rooted? Where is this feeling of really pissed off because of what someone said? Where is this rooted? Today, I've been very triggered. I wouldn't say I'm angry, but I would say I'm triggered because I'm tired of seeing the world in the way that it is right now. I was already tired of seeing the world in the way that it was before all of this, you know, stay home and let's burn buildings down shit started. I was already triggered. And at this point, I'm just over it. I'm over it. I'm tired of seeing the world hurting with no one trying to fix it. What's going on right now is not fixing it. It's a very thinly veiled attempt to perpetuate an amplified version of our pain from before. And so now it's like, why am I triggered? Where is this coming from? I don't know. I don't know. Part of me wonders if this is part of my tail end of ascension. Because, like I said, I'm in the tail end of another ascension cycle. And this is the tail end of it. And so the residual parts that I must have glazed over at the beginning of the cycle are now coming forward. I'm tired of the world being the way it is because personally need the world to reflect the peace that's within me. I'm no longer willing to reflect internally what I'm witnessing externally. I need something shifted. And this is the very reason why it's so unrealistic for someone to make this assumption, this statement that ascension is like a namaste, love and light. Like, there's none of that involved. There's none of that involved. I promise you that. And if those things are involved in your cycle, they're not involved in that way, not in the way that you assume. It's very intense, very, very intense. Um, Ooh, huge blocks were removed. That's really draining. When huge blocks are removed and you've had those blocks for extended periods, it's like all of your energy just gushes out. It just gushes out. I desire complete solitude, been this way since mid 2019, don't want to call anybody or be bothered much. At first, I felt deep guilt and shame for feeling this way, but now it seems what is needed. Yeah, it is. It is what's needed. We're so programmed that you're a horrible person if you don't answer someone's call. You're a horrible person if you don't bend over backwards and break your back and still crawl to them trying to give them what they want. You're just, everything in society helps to remind us how we're horrible people. I mean, hell, most of us are taught that we're born broken. We're born being sinners. And I mean, if that offends you, then you need to really look into what you believe in. Because I'm saying this as a baptized and confirmed Catholic of 40 something years. That doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me that you would try and teach me that God knows everything, has unconditional love, yet he would choose to create you broken. Huh? What? Because that's not the God that I know personally, that I have a relationship with. That's not the God that I know. I also don't call my God a he or a she. My God is everything and nothing all at the same time. I was once asked to define God, and by definition, God is not definable. God is undefined. And the moment you begin to put labels and definitions on what God is, that's the moment it ceases to be God. So, what is God? The everything and the nothing and the spaces in between. What am I? I fluctuate from being everything and nothing and the spaces in between. I am a lower reflection of God. I know I don't even like the word God, Karen. Yeah. But, when you're speaking to people who haven't gone through their own process to redefine their life, their words, um, you kind of have to use the terms that they're familiar with. But absolutely, um, I don't tend to refer to God as God. I say it because it is everything and nothing and the spaces in between. Yeah. Yeah, weenie. I'm tired of leaving my home and feeling the anger, violence, sadness in this world. I come home emotionally drained. And that's how you know that you are rising in frequency. If you're offended by the injustice, by the lack of equality, by the lack of respect for human life, the lack of respect for sentient beings, that's a sign. That's a sign we all are rising in frequency. Everything that's happening right now is a trauma induced accretion. It is through the trauma that a specific set of processes are initiated. Just like when you're traumatized, you go into a fight or flight response. Your parasympathetic system gets activated. You have adrenaline pumping through you. You have all of this energy to either fight your way through or take off, leave and find somewhere safe. And that's what's happening in a trauma induced accretion. It's not that you're being traumatized to be made worthy. No, it's not that bullshit religion stuff of you have to be punished in order to be worthy of the love. Fuck that. Fuck that. A trauma induced accretion triggers processes that allow for the pulling in massive accreting of extremely high frequency. And this extremely high frequency will trigger your spiritual parasympathetic system. So, for my language, which is heavily influenced by Spanish, para, P-A-R-A, para means for, parasympathetic, for sympathy. So we can begin to focus on our journey. We can begin to see what it is we need to fix within ourselves, not because we are broken, but because we deserve to exist on higher levels of consciousness. Let that sink in. This is not something that's needed to save you from hell. This is not something that's needed to fix you because you're broken. This is something that's needed because you deserve to exist at a higher level of consciousness, one where you can see everything that happens to you is happening for you. This is not to excuse away people's malicious intent. This is to help you understand how to use even malicious intent as fuel for your rise. Long gone are the days where you can claim to be a victim. What does that serve you? Choosing to continue to see how people victimized you. How does that serve you? It can serve you. If it continues for long enough and you become sick and tired of being a victim, you then will have enough rage to rebel against that process. Do you have to be broken to that extent for you to understand you've always had this power this whole time? You've had this power to shift your perception just enough to change the trajectory of how that energy is going to be used. Is that energy going to be used to continue to squish you down? Or are you going to put that behind you and let that energy serve as fuel for your rise and forward movement? Putting it behind you does not mean you forget what happened. It does not mean you suddenly are like, oh, I'm so now like I'm so advanced with my spirituality. Like, I know you totally punched me in the face yesterday, but I'm so advanced now. Thank you. Do you want to punch my other side? No. Uh-uh. That's not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is understand there was this threat. It even struck me in my face being my identity. It tried to hurt my identity, tried to separate me from my identity. But fuck you. You don't get to do that shit to me. Thank you for reminding me that I have the power to be like, fuck you. You don't get to do that to me. You have no more power here. You've already served your purpose. Carry on. Keep going, fucking peasant. Keep going, peasant. You don't have to use name calling and stuff. I don't know. It kind of makes me laugh. So I do use it. I do use it. I do use it. So a lot of the things that happen to you right now, again, regardless of their intent, because it's not about their intent, they really have no power like that. They're nothing more than a tool, they're nothing more than a messenger service. Once it does its job, let it go. I mean, you don't have the mailman come over and stay for dinner and prepare them a bedroom and a bath. You don't do that. You take your message and they go on their merry way. I mean, you don't call your mailman a peasant either. I am about to call mine a peasant because her ass dropped my package and broke my crystal. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But it's time for us to really empower ourselves. If the things that happen in this world right now is upsetting you, is breaking you, it's your resistance to your growth that's being broken. The upset feeling is a recognition of how inappropriate this world has been run thus far. This is not a call for us to try and fix a system that is working perfectly fine. It's not. This is a call for you to create your own system within yourself, one where you can better embrace your power, better utilize your voice, and become that drop in a huge tsunami of change. Have you ever tried to stop a tsunami? Is there any government in existence in this world right now with all its advanced technology capable of stopping a tsunami? Let that sink in. We are not ripples. Government can't even stop ripples. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. We are each a drop in a wall of water, a tsunami of change. We are not going to be stopped. Does it have to happen with violence and destruction? I don't know. Am I encouraging you to be violent and destructive? Absolutely not. But at no point did God create us and be like, well, I'm going to need you to let your ass get kicked because it's just too mean to fight back. It's too mean to defend those who can't defend themselves. I don't think so. I don't think so. If that wasn't something that God would allow, that is something that would not exist. Let that sink in. Does anything in this creation exist without the permission of God's source? I don't think so. Everything exists for a reason, for purpose. If it does not have a purpose, it does not exist. Look at the trees, look at their leaves. At certain times of the year, those leaves no longer serve a purpose, so they are not allowed to exist. They fall off the tree, they shrivel up and die, and then they're crumpled and turn into soil. Let that sink in. The Catholic in me, that was the Catholic in me to turn the other cheek. I remember I told my mom said I was a wicked witch. I told my mom the only time I would turn my other cheek is if I'm gonna cock my hand back to slap the shit out of somebody. She said I was a wicked witch. And I laughed and I was like, "Well, call me whatever." That's the only time you're gonna see me turn my other cheek. Okay. You slap me in my right cheek. I'm cocking back my right hand, motherfucker. You're not slapping me again. I don't think so. Okay. You don't put hands on God's creation. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, okay? She said I was a wicked witch. Well, she called me a wicked witch. First, it was she thought it was wicked for me to hit someone back, and then she called me a bruja because I don't brush my hair. So she called me a bruja, which means witch. Fine. But you guys, allow yourself to grow like really organically. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make missteps. You're going to have these periods where you feel as though this circumstance that's horrible, it's your fault. You were encouraged by creation, by factors that help to form you into who you are. Those things encouraged you to react, respond, participate in whatever it is that you were in. That's for a reason. Find out that reason. It's no longer enough to be like, "Oh, I'm such a bad person. I always fuck up. I always make mistakes." And is it really a mistake? When you messed up, was it because you realized that there was a better way to handle that? There was a better way to address something. There was a better way to perform whatever task you were supposed to perform. So if that's what you realized, and that's what caused you to think that was a mistake, how about you have a little more faith in yourself? How about you recognize that as a fine tuning of your learning process? And I'm not talking about making excuses for ourselves. I'm talking about stopping the cycle that allows for you to continue with the destructive cycles. Because we don't get this, do we? Where we fail to realize that when we keep telling ourselves we are failures and seeing every event in our life as a failure, we are preventing ourselves from actually seeing our growth. We're preventing it. And as a matter of fact, we are justifying the lack of growth because I'm a failure. It's because I'm a failure. I don't beat myself up for mistakes anymore either. I'm like, oops. I guess I'll do it differently next time. Oops. And I think that's what we have to do at this point. I think it's at this point that we have to really allow ourselves to grow as individuals, to just have gratitude for all the things that we've experienced, to really allow ourselves to see beyond what's right here in front of us. Because I'm noticing with the way society is, um, not necessarily the members of society, but those who create the structures we call society, the limitations, the laws, the regulations, all of that. Um, they are very, very good at constantly placing something in front of us. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's so like amazingly consistent. You need to be afraid of this. Oh, you're not afraid of that anymore. Okay, you need to be afraid of this. Oh, you're not afraid of that anymore. Oh, you need to be afraid of this. You're not afraid of that anymore. Oh, you need to be afraid of this. You're not afraid of that anymore. You need to be afraid of this. Oh, you're not afraid. Then you need to be angry. Be mad about this. You're not mad about that anymore. Be mad about this. You're not mad about that anymore. You be mad about this. It's the whole same thing over and over and over. Look at what's going on right now. Like, really take a look at what's going on right now. We got tired of the COVID bullshit. Let's make them mad. Let's do that. Let's make them mad. We're tired of being angry. Oh shit, COVID's back. Yeah, no, no. I'm neither mad nor angry. I'm not participating in that. You want to put out shit about they're going to fuck with our food supply? I'll grow my own food. You want to put out shit about, oh, they're going to close off state borders, state lines? I'll stay at home. It's okay. I enjoy my family. It's okay. You want to put out information about, oh, they're going to riot in every single neighborhood and they're going to attack minorities. They're going to attack white people. Oh, that's fine. I'll go to the range every day until they show up at my house. From at least 50 yards, I can hit you in the heart. That's okay. I'm not afraid. I'm proactive. Everything that they say to you, don't use that as an opportunity to become angry or afraid or disempowered. Use that as a guideline for what you need to work on next. You wanna fuck with my kids at school? Oh, no, that's fine because they homeschool. We're registered as homeschoolers. Yeah, no, whatever you want to do with the school, do that. We're registered and we get audited as homeschoolers. Okay, I'm fine with that. Whatever. What else you want to fuck with? Give me a guideline of what to do because when they put this information out, they're testing. It takes a while for them to really implement it. First, they try a little bit. They see what the reaction is because they can't control all of us. If it doesn't have the appropriate response, scrap it. We're not going with that. If we can't initiate fear, separation, rage, we're not going with that. So you have plenty of time. You have plenty of time to grow your own food, become self sufficient, learn your neighbors, get very comfortable with them, and begin to barter. Anarchy is more than just violence and no laws. That's the start of it. That's the transitionary period. But most people who are supportive of anarchy, they're farmers, they're barterers, they're skilled tradespeople. I'm just saying. Part of your spiritual progress right now is heavily dependent on how you respond to societal triggers. Now, most of us are probably feeling at this point that the people we were once close to, the people we once really vibed with, is no longer. Is no longer. You're seeing all of this craziness. You're seeing their reaction to the craziness. Many people are ending friendships because they disagree with how the craziness is being handled. Um, that's just crazy. It's just crazy. We don't have to agree, but we do have to recognize when we are being played. Okay. So part of your spiritual journey has to do with your recognition of the state of the world, your recognition of your place in that state of the world, how you have helped to co-create, how you have been complicit, um, Yeah, we're a social experiment. There were killer wasps. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. That's hilarious. Yeah, we've homeschooled. We homeschooled in California and all the other states that we've lived in. Oh, murder hornets. I thought that was a joke. Was there I heard someone say that and I laughed because I thought it was real. That's crazy. Yeah, so yeah, we've homeschooled my kids' entire lives. All of them. So they're all registered in a specific state as homeschoolers. We're domiciled in a different state than where we're at. Um, oh, that's so awesome, Ocean Girl. I've been a teacher for 30 years, but I homeschooled my daughter and she graduated early with a scholarship. Yeah, I'm so proud of my kids. Like one of my kids, he basically was like at senior level when he was, I think, in third grade or something like that. And he just like he did his own curriculum. When he turned 13, when he turned 13, when you're 13, you know everything. And so he wasn't doing his schoolwork. Like I'd be like, "Did you do your homework?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, it's done." And then I found out he didn't finish it all. You have 48 hours to find a comparable curriculum that's accredited, or your ass goes back to a regular. I'm not playing this shit with you. Hell no. We not playing. If you can't respect me as your teacher, it's one thing for you to argue with me as your mother. As your teacher, that's a whole different thing. You're not gonna let me teach you. You got to go to a different teacher. Boy, he had 48 hours to find a different curriculum, accredited. You want to be like that? Okay, we'll play that game. And it just so happened that was the time we were living in Las Vegas. We were living in Las Vegas, and it was just on the news that one of the students killed another student or something like that in the parking lot, like shot him. And I was like, "That's what you're gonna be fucking with." Okay, play this game with me. You know everything. Find yourself a accredited program. You got 48 hours before I begin the enrollment process. He found himself an accredited program. So he was 13, and within, I want to say, like a year or two, he was completely done with high school. Within a year he was completely done. The program that he found, check this out, I'm so fucking proud of him. The program that he found was an online program that you can audit the class. So when you audit the class, you don't actually get credit for it, but you're like a certificate for it. Well, what is that? Can you answer this? I don't know who it is. You don't get. So you audit the class. It's taught by Ivy League professors. So he was taking courses with MIT. I think there was also UC Berkeley, like a whole bunch of all the Ivy League colleges. These were the courses he was taking to satisfy his high school requirements to graduate. So not only was he earning high school credit, he was also earning college credit, and he tested out of high school on his own. I was like, okay, you sure taught me. You got me to shut up. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Don't be messing with me, wasting my time. So that's what he did. I mean, people will only perform to what you expect them to perform at. So with your children, if you think your children are annoying, are poorly behaved, are, all of this and all of that, then that's what they'll be. That's what they'll be, you know? So yeah, he got to choose. He runs his own company. He's now 18, but he's basically been done with high school since he was, I think, oh, I almost cut my kneecap off. Shit. But yeah. Um, and I'm totally fully supportive of my children and what they choose to do. He chose a field that most traditional parents would be like, that's not a real job. Excuse you. If that's what he's passionate about, then that's what he's going to do. If he's earning a legal living wage, then he's successful to me. If he's happy and he gets paid to do what he's passionate about, that's fucking successful to me. Because thank you. Because really though, what everyone in my family wanted was for him to become a doctor or a lawyer. I was like, he doesn't like that. I remember when he was 3, and I was taking him to a program in the Berkeley Hills, I think it was. It's this advanced program, and they have the director of biology in UC Berkeley teaching their biology class to the children. And I mean, these children are all like my child. Like they're all profoundly gifted. That means they've tested and they're at the 99.99 percentile, profoundly gifted. So he was totally with his people. So at 3 years old, and the other kids were, it was preschool, preschool age. They were all around the same age. They were growing E. coli. They were growing E. coli for class. I was just like, E. coli. Woo. But it's amazing if you allow people to just be who they are, yourself included. The most beautiful things will happen. Um, so it was around that time, that program, even with the gifted children, he was like, he stood out because they were 99.99% percentile, and he was ranked in the 99.999%. I was like, boo, you're not above everybody. Okay, just stop it. But he told his classmate that once. Don't ask me. They were arguing with each other. And he said, and he was 3 years old, I wouldn't expect you to understand because you're only at a 99.99 percentile. It's like, why would you say that to her? She was very rude, mom. She was very rude and she needed to know. I was like, you don't do that. It's not nice. We don't make people feel badly for not being as smart as us. He was just like, she had to know, mom. She was trying to tell all the other kids what to do in class. So she kind of did need to know. She kind of did need to know, like, you're not the smartest in the class. So stop bossing everyone around. But the way he did it was just like, oh, you really, you going for the Achilles, aren't you? I was, and then her mother looked at me and I was like, I'm so sorry. And she goes, I understand. She's kind of bossy. I was like, that's fucked up. If you know she, okay, anyways. So he was in that program, and that program referred him to I think it was called EPGY. I think that's what it's called. It's a program run by Stanford University. And from that point on, they gave him admission to Stanford at 3. They gave him admission, and they wanted to every year, I think even till now, every year they send a letter to my parents' house inviting him to come for the summer to Stanford. I'm like, baby, we ain't got that kind of money. We don't have Stanford preschool money. I'm sorry. And because of that, they all felt that that I was doing poor parenting because I didn't force him and groom him to be successful. Like, that's not what he likes though. That's not what he likes. He taught himself how to become a sound engineer. Like, let that sink in. How amazing do you have to be to teach yourself? Self-taught sound engineer. And then he's not just like, oh, I tell my, no, like he actually has clients in the music industry who he cleans up their music. Like he gets paid, and I don't know. For a long time, I got a lot of criticism for that. But I knew in my heart, I have to support his growth, his organic growth. Yes, there's certain things that I have to, you know, force him to do because that's how you have to guide. Like, I have to force him to complete certain assignments so that way we can submit it for auditing. Because in certain schools, certain, not schools, but states, homeschoolers are audited. Every quarter you get audited. You have to turn in samples for every subject, and then the teacher has to talk to the student and kind of, not really a test, but just to make sure that they completed the work. They completed it, not the parent. And so, I got a lot of flack for that, but whatever. I respect him as a sovereign being. Yes, he's my child, but he's also autonomous. He's an individual. And you can't expect a human being to function as a successful, autonomous individual if you continue to treat them like they're not. Same thing with you. That's the programming you're undoing for your spiritual journey. You have to undo that program. I'm very, very lucky because my parents were always at work. My brothers were always, doing stuff. So I was literally home by myself all the time. I didn't get to be programmed. I didn't have much to undo because I was always alone. I was just always alone. And people might be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's so sad. Why is it sad? It taught me to value myself. I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm not afraid to go out and do things by myself. I'm not afraid to start projects by myself, complete projects by myself, hold myself accountable for the things I get myself into. Really look back and analyze my behavior, how I contributed to ugly circumstance, all of that. Everything that happens in your life happens for a purpose. It happens for a purpose. Some people might say, like, oh, well, oh my gosh, how, oh, you probably didn't feel so loved and blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, for a period of my life, I did feel that way. For a period of my life, I questioned why there was no one there and how that was so unfair. But I also realized I am who I am because of that. It absolutely prepared me for my purpose in life. So, am I still mad? No, I'm actually very thankful. I'm very, very, very thankful because I'm sure, um, as a parent, I don't think that was an easy decision. I don't think it was an easy decision to be like, okay, I'm going to work 16-hour shifts at the hospital 6 to 7 days a week for 30 years. I don't think that was an easy decision. Not at all. Not at all. And as a matter of fact, there were plenty of conversations with my mom before she passed away where, she talks about, um, she sees the way that I've parented my children, and like she feels like she totally wasted, such a huge portion of her life working all the time, and that she should have been present. I wouldn't be me if she wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't have my understanding of the world if she wasn't at work all the time. So everything that you do in life, everything that's done to you in life, all the ways in which you are given, all the ways in which you are deprived, all of these things, they help to make you who you are. And who you are is way more than what you think you are. Way more. Way, way, way more. I'm like begrudgingly coming to this realization because I see myself and I see a stay-at-home mom. That's what I am. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a mom. I'm not anything else. I'm a mom. And you have people who are like, no, I mean, you're not just a stay-at-home mom. I mean, to me, it's not, when I say just a stay-at-home mom, that's what I identify as, a stay-at-home mom, nothing else. But when I say stay-at-home mom, that carries with it such a huge, huge definition. Huge. Because I'm tasked, my husband and I are both tasked with raising the next generation. Whatever it is we teach our children, That is what's going to be our future. So when I say just a stay-at-home mom, it's not diminished in any way. This is the most highest level that I will ever reach. This is like the epitome of my existence. Mm, mm. Because I look at my kids and I'm like, future's gonna be real fucking good. It's gonna be real good. Hell yeah. You put those boys in charge. Mm-hmm. Very fair, very efficient, highly intelligent, highly compassionate. World's gonna be okay. We just have to get through this transitionary period. And I think that's probably what's most important right now. As we're going through this transitionary period, we have to allow ourselves to see these things about our journey, how our journey is not just us. Our journey involves so many other components, so many other people. And, we can't start like just demanding things of ourselves and of other people, things that aren't even in alignment, things that we really have nothing, no understanding about, you know? And that's why you need to sit in silence for a bit. That's why you need to be alone for a bit. That's why you have to feel pain. It's the greatest teacher you'll ever know. Suffering is optional, pain is not. It's not. Um, Everything has been so weird. Uh, it's nice to see parents that focus on their children's future. I didn't have that. I didn't have that either. So, whatever you experience, you can either learn from it and use it to help rise, or you can stay right where you are and use it to justify your lack of progress. Whatever you choose is what's right for you. Whatever you choose is what's right for you. But just know, if you choose, and I'm not saying this to one specific person, although I did see Erica's comment, which triggered my thought process. This is just my general take on it. You can use any event in your life to either encourage you to grow or justify why you're holding yourself back. I didn't have anyone to help me with homework. I didn't have anyone to encourage me. And I still got a very high GPA. I didn't have anyone to show me how to be a loving, patient parent, how to raise a child that, well, actually, none of my children are like regular children. They are, I would describe it as high needs. And I didn't have anyone to help me understand that the way I was parenting, the way I am parenting, is what they need. Yet I was still able to. And I was able to do these things because I'm so defiant. I will not have for my children what I had for myself. And you can think of any other way to try and tear me down. I will not comply. I will not allow you to shift the way I see myself, because I have gone through enough for me to know the only definitions I live by are the definitions that I set. If I'm going to be the only one that is going to be affected, that has to live with a consequence of my perception, then I'm going to be the only one who will define what those perceptions are, what parameters I use, what filters are in place. I am accountable for my entire life. I am open to listening to people. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone I meet teaches me something new about myself, about the world, about esoteric topics, about random things. But will I take in your truth as my own? Will I take in your truth as my own simply because that's what I'm programmed to do? I beg to differ. I will not. I will not. Michael says, Michael said, rebellion runs in her veins. It's true. It's true, motherfuckers. No, I'm joking. It's true, though. Rebellion does run through my veins. Ooh, this is a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff. Can I just say, can Cunol. Yeah, for real. This is like a shameless. Cunol, if you'd like to sponsor me, I love this shit. It's turmeric. I love it. Sometimes I'll megadose if well, that makes me so sad. When gyms were still open, when I used to lift very heavy, I would megadose on that and I wouldn't be sore at all. At all. Whereas most people would be like, I can't walk. Well, yeah, because you lifted too much. But I wouldn't be sore. Um, all right, guys. Oh, what? Okay, I gotta go. Thank you guys so much for this talk, for being open to hearing my opinions, my take on things. That's all this is. My opinions. My opinions are no more valid nor less valid than your own. So hear what I say and see what fits. And if none of it fits, beautiful. Consider yourself empowered. Consider yourself a sovereign. And I celebrate that. You don't have to agree with me in any way, shape, or form. What I want is for you to think for yourself. So even if you don't agree, beautiful. So love you guys. Bye.